to Scary Diaries, where fear meets the unknown. Today's story is about a mysterious train. This story is of a man who had got his iron made in the train industry. But then something happened to him on a cold night, which not only forced him, but also his co-worker, to tremble with fear. The matter got to the point that a bogie had to say goodbye to the moving train. Despite knowing all this, there were more than 50 people in the bogie who were left at the mercy of the blind creature. The story did not end here either. Despite the crowd of people in front of the police at the nearby train station, the driver fell to the ground, that no one had the courage to save him. But that's not all. We are going to cover a lot more in this story. As always, all my series links are available in the description. On this channel, we discuss the most horrific stories of YouTube. So, after listening to the story, keep writing something in the comment box so that your name can pass through my eyes once. So, let's start today's story. So, the story starts, it has been sent by one of our subscribers that have mentioned to not tell their name for privacy. So, let's continue. I have always been a logical person. I have felt closer to reality. I have never believed in ghosts, or any blind creature. In my opinion, this is just the work of empty minds, which people are doing for time passing. This opinion of mine was to some extent correct, because I had spent many years of my life in such conditions, that in my entire career I loved to travel. I searched every corner of USA. From every to every plain area I had done my marking. Then, whether it was mountainous areas or remote deserts. But as they say, fate does not always support you. Something similar happened to me. Every time I would go in search of such things, that maybe I could deny myself by seeing such a thing. But I did not find anything like that, except that night. Yes, that night, I was in contact with them. David was right. We should be careful. In the voice of creation, what is said is not 100% false. Sometimes you come in contact with such things that all 4 layers of a person become bright. For me too, those moments were like that. It was a cold day of December 2009, and winter was on its peak. There was no one outside the house, except for those who had to leave for important work. I was also among those helpless people. My train was ready. The conductor was closing the doors of his passengers, and the passengers had already taken their seats. I remember, before leaving, when I was honking the train horn for the last time, the rest of the passengers were running and boarding the train, not knowing that this decision was going to be so scary for them. What a terrible situation was coming for them. They were just moving forward in search of comfort. In the next few minutes, we had left that station. I had a fast train in my hand, and I had to reach on time at any cost. David, my TT, or conductor, he knew all the work of the world, so he was very close to my heart. He considered work as an enemy. That's why I used to try to get his duty done with me. Even today, we were leaving for Nevada, together as usual. Along with a few foreigners, our train was full of passengers. What do you think? Will we reach on time? David asked a question sitting next to me. If the weather is fine and there is no issue, then I will drop you at California Station the next morning. That's fine. But I think there will be a storm as soon as we enter California. Look at the weather here. And on the other station, the radio was also saying that the next few days are going to be very cold. David was looking ahead and saying, whatever happened in fate, our job is to try. I spoke while paying attention ahead, As soon as David heard this, he went to check the tickets. That day, we were going to state of California, which was Nevada, fighting the storm with 22 passengers. In such a weather, every station seemed to be staring at us. I don't know which stop or station a fool would come across. David was going to lose himself. Along with that, our job will also be put on hold. We had entered California by 10 o'clock in the night, but the speed of the train was very slow. Outside, the horizon was almost zero. Therefore, you could encounter any situation. On top of that, the condition of the tracks would be in your knowledge. So, that's why I was sitting very late. In the meantime, Rafik sat next to me. We were moving forward while talking. We saw a red light at a small station in front of us. As soon as the train slowed down, the staff there told us that the condition of the tracks is a little bad in the middle before the big station. So, keep the speed as slow as possible. This news was not new to us. We used to get such warnings every day in USA. So we continued our journey with a little caution. In those days, the population was not spread everywhere. There were while most of the area was deserted. So we were a little late for this reason too. Around 11 o'clock at night, I was about to pick up a cup of tea. I bent down a little. David winked at me and pointed ahead. Look, there is someone there, on the front track. I didn't see anything, nor did I press the brakes of the train. It felt like someone was standing, somewhere in the middle of the track. I don't know what he had lit up, but I could see that he was white from a distance. David, what is this? I said in a little nervous voice. He looks like a human being. But how is he so white? He looks like a girl. But here, at this time, David was also looking at him in amazement like me. What to do? Stop or let him go? I quickly asked while looking at him. Something will be taken. Hit the brakes. Let's see what the matter is, David said while stopping me. In the meantime, our train stopped. But the girl was still standing in the middle of the track as if frozen. She looked like a local from the clothes around her. But at this time of the night, in this weather, David was also thinking the same thing. This time, he blabbered, "Yes, I don't feel right either, but maybe there is an issue. If someone goes crazy while driving like this, then we will be blamed." I told him, maybe he needs some help. David, you do this. Go down and see who it is. If someone is crazy, then remove it from the track. Let us pass. Then he will know the rest and see for himself. As soon as I heard this, I started feeling nervous on the face of David. He was a little hesitant to get down, but now there was no other option, because she was standing in the middle of the track. Dude, I feel very strange. That girl was not moving at all. Maybe there is something else. David was speaking in fear. What do you mean by something else? I asked. Maybe it's a ghost. He looked at me and said, Dude, I'm here. If anything happens to you, I'll come. You just look once and come. There were more foreigners in the train behind with us. Don't bother. I was trying to cheer him up. But the reality was that his presence was not human at all. Inside, I also started feeling a little scared. Such incidents used to happen on the tracks. But at this time of the night, we were seeing this for the first time. That's why we started feeling a little scared. Anyway, this is what I heard. David showed a little courage and turned his feet down. As he was slowly moving towards him, the girl was also slowly turning towards him. Now, this whole thing was happening a few feet away from me. I was just looking at them, and evaluating the situation. Until then, we thought it was either a crazy girl or a strange move. We were instructed from the main station not to stop at any cost. But since this beach was on the track, we had to stop the train. As soon as David arrived, they started talking. I opened the window of the cabin and started evaluating the situation. I did not want to put David's life in danger at any cost. They kept talking for about 2 minutes, and then the girl slowly moved away from the track and started going into the trees. I had just thought of moving the train a little further. I saw David going towards that girl in the trees. Why is he going after her? I pulled my head out and called out to him. But instead of stopping, David started following the girl. I got off the train and ran towards him. David said I was left behind, but he was moving forward. As if my voice was not reaching his ears, I also went behind. But as soon as I held David's hand, he started letting go of my hand. The girl was slowly moving forward, and David was with him. I suddenly slapped David. He started to gain consciousness. "David, stop! What are you doing?" I shouted loudly. But David was not getting any effect, as if he did not want to go behind her. But the girl was pulling him towards her. My heart started beating fast. I understood that this is something else. Despite the force of David, I started pulling him back. With the voice of David, the girl stopped for a moment and started looking at me. There was no mark on her face, except for the black of darkness. She was not a girl. In fact, her face was not visible, as if it was just a white dress, and whatever was inside, we could not see, at least. Or maybe I was the only one who could not see. Whatever it was, I was not going to let David take her away. "David, come to your senses. We have to go back." As soon as I said this, the girl started turning towards us. The girl, who seemed to be an ordinary girl, started taking a very scary look at us. But in the meantime, I took David back to the train. "Brother, she was calling me. Let me go, please." David was speaking as if the creature had suddenly overpowered him. "Don't say a word. We have to get out of here soon." Saying this, I pushed David into the cabin. I closed the window and climbed from the other side. During all this, the passengers sitting behind were unaware of all this. They were probably thinking that our train has stopped here to give way to another train. On top of that, most of the passengers were asleep at this time of the night. As soon as we left, David began to regain consciousness. His body was sweating. For a few moments, he could not believe what was happening. And how did he escape? But then, as the train began to pick up speed, he also began to recover. In a little while, he turned around and stood up. Now, we were about to breathe a sigh of relief when David suddenly screamed. He came to our train. "I have seen him. Brother, I have seen him getting off." He was speaking in a strange way. "Where? On which bogie?" "The one in the back where he is married." He spoke in trouble. My eyes were torn. There were about 50 people in that bogie. It was not less dangerous for him to get in there. I looked at David. He had not been able to get out of that state completely, but I had no choice now. So, as soon as I saw him, he understood what I was trying to tell him. In a fraction of a second, he ran towards the bogies. As soon as he left, I was tense. While stopping the train, we had not even thought that we were going to take such a big risk. She was not a girl, but some other creature. The one who first stopped the train, then took David under his control. and then put him in the train. My mind was starting to explode. As I was thinking about that bogey, the tension was spreading in my body. It must have been 2 minutes that David came back shivering. "Brother, I locked that bogey, but from the sounds coming from inside, I don't think anything is right there. What will we do now?" I'm getting tense. What to do? Should we set an alarm on the train so that everyone wakes up? At least everyone will be in their senses. He kept saying, "No, don't set an alarm in any way. Otherwise, it will become a big issue." I knew that as soon as the alarm goes off, there will be chaos among the people. And then the situation will be out of our control. So whatever I had to think quickly, and I had to think while protecting everyone. We had very little time now. The David standing in front of me was shivering with fear. His condition was clearly indicating what situation he had seen. On top of that, whatever decision had to be made, I had to do it. What's in that bogey? Has it caused harm to people? I asked with concern. I don't know. All I know is that as soon as I reached there were strange screams coming from that bogey, and someone was trying to open the door. As soon as I reached, instead of opening the door, I locked it from the outside. I don't know how the situation inside will be, but I couldn't put the whole train in danger at any cost. Foreigners in the train had become a headache for us. If they had even a slight glimpse of this whole situation, there would have been chaos in the whole country. That's why our tension had increased so much. We knew that, in any case, we would definitely lose our job. On top of that, we would also go to jail. You do one thing, go to the door. If you see anything here and there, let that bogey go. We'll see the rest later. I hadn't been able to complete my point yet, that David left for his return. We had understood this situation well. That's why it was understandable to be in such a hurry. It must have been just 5 minutes that I felt a shock. My heart trembled. I realized that David had separated that bogey from the train. I had no choice but to save that bogey. I was watching him in the side mirror. All those moments started spinning in my mind when those wedding guests were happily boarding the train. I remembered all their preparations and dance songs. My heart sank. I was still thinking that David slowly opened the door. We looked into each other's eyes and understood what to do now. I am very worried about those wedding guests. He was one bogey, while the other bogey of the same wedding guests is still attached. If they find out, they will bury us alive. He was 100% right. I didn't pay attention to this, but one thing came to my mind. A big station was about to come, a few kilometers ahead. I knew that if I reached there, I could send someone to help that bogey. I accelerated the train at that moment. I couldn't see anything ahead. "Slow down a bit. You will get us all killed." David was whispering to me. "I have to save them at any cost. There is a big station a few kilometers ahead. We have to reach there as soon as possible." As soon as he heard me, David quietly looked ahead. We were stopping at the station in the next few minutes. The train had not yet stopped properly, that David was getting off quickly and running towards the main office. There was no hope that the staff would be present on duty at this time of the night, but we had to try our best. As soon as the train stopped, I also ran towards it. Fortunately, the staff there was awake. They informed the police while helping us. I waited for the police and came out of the office. The station lights were dimming where I was standing. That's why it was dark around me. I kept looking at the same place to see when the police would come. Meanwhile, I heard a voice behind me, as if someone was there right behind me in the dark. I quickly turned back, but the scene ahead was not expected for me at all. The same creature was standing there in the dark. As soon as I started turning back to run, my feet froze, as if I did not have the courage to save my life and run again. I wanted to call someone for help, but the voice coming out of my throat, as if it was not even reaching my ears, that creature came close to me. As soon as it came close to my ears, it screamed. What do you think? Will you escape from my hands? Will you escape from me? Can you be faster than me? Its voice was very soft and strange. All I could understand was that its intentions were not right. But what could I do in such a situation? My body had stopped working. It muttered. I had to hear that my last hope was also gone. As soon as I heard death, the ground came out of my feet. What was killing me? I was overwhelmed with fear. I remember that before I became unconscious, I felt my body was a little heavy. And at the same time, the scenes in front of me started spinning. I was slowly falling on the ground. But just before I reached the ground, I heard a voice. But by then, I was unconscious. Being careless of everything, I had never thought that my last time would be so helpless in front of such a creature. But maybe that time had not come yet. Yes, my last time. Surprisingly, my eyes opened. I felt like a few minutes had passed, but in fact, it was a few hours. I was not at the station, but I was lying on the hospital bed. It was 2:00 in the afternoon. David was wandering outside my room. As soon as I opened my eyes, he came towards me. Other people were also with him, so I could not ask anything immediately. But David understood what I wanted to ask. He got a little closer to me. As soon as he came close to my ears, he said, "Don't worry, everything is fine." Yes, everything. Nothing happened that we were afraid of. Just stay quiet. I did not understand anything, except that neither was I handcuffed, nor was David behind the bars. So that means maybe those people were right. In the meantime, those staff went outside. So David came to me immediately. "Brother, those people are all right, except for a few who have minor injuries due to running. That witch was in a human form there, so no one doubted her. Otherwise, it would have been a big loss. I talked to the main station. They thought it was a technical issue for the staff to separate. So there is no need to worry about us now. No problem." As soon as I heard all this, I couldn't breathe. All my tension was suddenly over. We hugged each other very happily. We knew how we had survived in such a bad situation. That night, if David had not hit that witch with that heavy thing, maybe it was not possible for me to survive. She would have eaten me raw there, but I had to survive, so David came at the right time and saved me. I didn't believe these things at all. Now that someone behaved like me in front of me, I would immediately stop him and say, "The day everything will be equal, you will know for yourself how much these things are based on reality and lies. These creatures are real. It's a different thing that when does a person meet them?" After that night, I never met them again. Yes, but now there is an increase of another person among those who believe in them. I have also started believing in all these things now, but not like that, because I know that this happens to a person from time to time in years. It is still heard about that witch that she has been seen in those areas every day by a few villagers, but now she is far away from humans. Maybe that heavy blow of David had changed her thoughts about humans a bit. But who was she? And what did she want? The answer to this question is probably still not available to anyone. If you like this story, and you have heard the story to this extent, it means that you like my stories. If this is the case, then do press the subscribe button. Good night.